moving forward, I'm going to decide to do things differently. That's going to create new, more empowering emotions, and that's going to construct a very different reality. And I think that that's where the power of regret comes from. It's really built within that function of empathy.
I turned that regret into something really powerful to inspire me, motivate me, and empower me to become a better woman and a better person. Hey everybody, it's Bianca.
And it's Emilia.
Welcome to another episode of Evolve Ventures, where we are helping growth-minded humans evolve by breaking one limiting belief at a time. We hope you enjoyed the last episode, number 234, Tools for Setting Boundaries. For today, number 235, Motivation Monday, the power of regret. You've probably never heard someone talk about the power of regret. You'll hear people say, no regrets. If you've watched We're the Millers, you saw that tattoo, no rugrats. No regrets. No regrets. We've heard so many people talk about, not feeling regret. Regret is a bad thing. You shouldn't regret anything, everything, whatever. Here at Evolve, we highly disagree. We think that regret is an extraordinary tool that can be used to your advantage if you so choose to see it that way. If you choose to believe that you can turn your regret into something powerful, into something impactful, into something for your greatest good. That's what we're going to be diving into today, is how do you actually start to do that? And I want to start this off with a very personal story for me and from me. A few years ago, I was in a relationship, and it just was a really bad relationship. Towards the end of it, we decided to get a dog together. Her name was Gia. She was a gorgeous white German Shepherd, like purebred white German Shepherd. We drove all the way to Kentucky and back to go get her in a day. So her and her brother, because we were getting another one for another person. And when I tell you I did everything for that dog, I did everything for her. I did all the research. I did all of the back end stuff to learn about how to do the training for her. I was up throughout the night making sure that she was doing okay. That was my baby. That was my first child. Mm-hmm. Emilia knows. Emilia saw just the love that I had for that dog. And if you know me, you know I love German Shepherds. It's always been a dream of mine to have a little cult of German Shepherd puppies. I'm going to have it someday, but not right now. But so it was like a dream come true for me that I finally had this dog. And so I was doing everything for her. She was growing. She was getting huge. Her ears started going up. It was beautiful. She was my little polar bear. And when the relationship ended, because of the circumstances, because of the fact that the place that I had moved into didn't allow dogs, and I wasn't in a place to try to fight for her, I'll just leave it at that, I ended up losing Gia. And I haven't seen her since. I haven't seen her in 2 years. And it was devastating for me because I adored her. She was literally my child. And it was a really hard situation for me to never see her again and to not know if she's being treated well. And I have no idea what happened to her. I don't even know if my ex still has her. But so that situation happened, and over the last 2 years, initially I fell into a really significant shame spiral of, I can't believe I let this happen. We never should have got her. I wish I fought harder for her. I wish that I was in a place where I could have gotten a place where I could have taken her, and then I could have fought really hard for her. And just all of the self-shaming and the guilt and the regret that came from that. And it took me some time to really process through those emotions, but I was able to, over time, work through the shame and work through the regret to now switch it in my favor. And I'm in a place in my life now where I'm truly the best I have ever been, like mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, financially, economically, just every aspect of my life is the greatest it's ever been. And one of the biggest reasons for that was because of the amount of regret and guilt that I had over who I was before and wanting to be better, wanting to never experience that again. And having that understanding of the next time I get a dog, number one, it's only going to be mine initially. And number two, I want to make sure that I can do everything in my power to really provide a good home for that pup. And I'm actually getting a new pup within the next month or so, which I'm so excited about. And I now know that I'm in such a beautiful place in my life to where I can do that. I can provide a really great home. I can be an amazing dog mom to this pup. And my life is set up in a way where I'm really good. So I had that situation that really devastated me for a long time, and it could have just been more evidence and more evidence and more evidence of how terrible of a person I am. And for a little bit it was, but I switched that. I turned that regret into something really powerful to inspire me, motivate me, and empower me to become a better woman and a better person.
1000%. There's a quote that I want to share from one of my mentors, Brene Brown. She is a rock star. Mama Brene. And she has a quote out there. And if you research it, I would highly encourage you to go down that research rabbit hole. But because this is a Motivation Monday, I will keep it top level. So she says in one of her books, and also there's a couple like interviews where she shares this. And I think it's really, really powerful around this conversation when it comes to regret. She says, "I've grown to learn regret is a fair but tough teacher. Regret is a function of empathy." And I think that that is something that's really, really powerful. And why is because empathy is the charger underneath why we feel regret. So for example, I think that the shame spirals that we get into when we experience really complex emotions, like for example, be what you went through. There is the identification of what behaviors led to this outcome. That's who I am. And that's where we start to build this narrative that I'm a bad person. Instead of the separation and bringing compassion and empathy into looking back at the experience and the behaviors and the beliefs and the thoughts and the emotions that drove those behaviors and separating from them a little bit, giving empathy and compassion to yourself and saying my decisions is what built that outcome to where I am today. And when you can kind of separate and not do the shame spiral around the I am a bad person and instead function with empathy and with compassion on a past version of yourself, because hindsight is always going to be 2020. Always. There's really bias. Never an exception to that. However, when you can look backwards and you can say, okay, let me separate a little bit from this and just observe the behaviors and recognize that I am not my behaviors. I am the outcome of what those are and the decision making that happens underneath that. However, I can evolve my decision making. I can evolve my thought processes. I can evolve the emotions that are cultivated based on that whole lab that we create. And that's what you did, B. You separated from all of the decisions and you didn't not take ownership for them, because if you had done that, there would be no evolution in this arena. And you empathized with the past version of yourself, and you brought in compassion, and you looked at those decisions and said, moving forward, I'm going to decide to do things differently. That's going to create new, more empowering emotions, and that's going to construct a very different reality. And I think that that's where the power of regret comes from. It's really built within that function of empathy. And when you can separate from those behaviors and not self-identify with those, that, I swear, has been so powerful for you. And I've observed that. I've seen that happen so many times with people. I've experienced that. And I know that for this Motivation Monday, we build a strong case around the power of regret, especially because it's rooted in that feeling of empathy and compassion. So for our listeners, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think one other point that's important to add on here, if you're someone like me, which you probably are, where you're a people pleaser, you're probably going to take on too much responsibility. You're going to take on too much ownership of the things that happen to you, which is why shame, which is why extraordinary guilt, because we personalize and we personify of like, it's all my fault. I did everything wrong. I'm such a terrible person. Because we take that behavior and we say, it's just because I'm such a terrible person. It's because I'm this, it's because I'm that. And I did do that in the beginning. I did. I didn't blame my ex, even though she did have a role in it. I didn't blame anything else. I took all of the weight. And that is not healthy either. There's a healthy level of ownership and responsibility. Own what you can own and work on that. That's how you build the empathy for yourself. That's how you build the self-compassion enough to transform regret into something powerful. It's owning the right amount of it and changing what you can and building
1,000%.
your identity around, I am someone who will always work towards changing and becoming better, which is what I did. And that's why I'm able to now look at the situation and say, you know what? Yeah, I played my part in this. I pushed for us to get the dog and I shouldn't have. I should have fought harder for her. That's true. But there's also a lot that was out of my control, and I worked on those things, and now I'm here where I am. So I just wanted to make sure that we said that too, because if you're listening to this show, you probably put too much emphasis on yourself, and that's not healthy either.
Definitely. And I think that that's where you did a really good job of being humble in this, because a lot of people, after really tough experiences where regret is often completely woven into their psyche, they don't necessarily lean on other people for perspectives on how things went. And so when you surround yourself with people who can keep you honest and fair in this level of regret and ownership and self-accountability and empathy, I think that that can be an even more powerful component to the regret. Because, for example, when you and I had talked about this, like, I encourage you to not let yourself off the hook for XYZ things. And I also encourage you to empathize and be compassionate towards yourself and be kind to yourself, looking back when you were taking way more on than, from my perspective of the entire thing, you were benefiting from, right? And that's one of the other things that I want to bring into this episode. And the last thing, that have the humility after something doesn't go your way to gain perspective from other people that have been close to the situation. Because it's fair, B. A lot of us, especially the people pleasing part of us that want to keep everything like, I don't want to say kosher, but like keep everything calm, like, and not have to face the tough stuff. Like, we'll just take it all on our back and everything's our responsibility. And that's not fair to ourselves.
Right.
And our parts will feel that too. So I'm glad that you mentioned that for our listeners. So happy Monday, y'all.
Happy Monday. What's your episode suggestion?
My episode suggestion is 227, which is another Motivation Monday, how to overcome feeling guilty when we aren't okay. Guilt is always a byproduct of hindsight bias, I find. More often than not, guilt and shame are right there. And I think that when we're not okay, learning how to overcome that in those tough moments, that's going to be a great episode for you.
Absolutely. Mine is 135. Turn your losses into lessons. All right, everybody. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Happy Monday. Go crush your week. And we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.